Hello and welcome to Caring. The Islamic holy month of Ramadan has begun, and for the Muslim Uighur community of China's northwestern Xinjiang province, it will be a time of reflection after deadly riots hit the capital Urumqi at the beginning of July. A time perhaps for the Chinese government to rethink its policies in the region as well, after that violence claimed the lives of some 200 people, the vast majority ethnic Han Chinese. This report was sent to us by Henry Morton and Joris Zilberman, who travelled back to the centre of those ethnic clashes to hear their accounts.
The first day of Ramadan, a time for prayer and reflection. And for many of the Muslim Uyghurs of Urumqi in China's northwestern Xinjiang province, that means looking back on the deadly ethnic riots at the beginning of July. Riots that saw simmering tensions between the Uyghur and Han Chinese communities spill over into bloodshed. Mulati was one of those caught up in the violence, his restaurants bearing the scars of the Troubles.
Hordes of Chinese Han rushed into the streets on July 7th. Everyone here was afraid. All of my staff took refuge inside the restaurant. They threw stones at the building and they broke that window, but we stayed inside. We only left after they'd gone.
Mulati refuses to pay for repairs to his restaurant, saying others should foot the bill.
I heard that the government was supposed to pay for damages. So I went to the neighborhood committee and to the police station, and then they came to assess the damages. I call them all the time, but nothing's been done yet. So I'll wait and see if the window gets repaired or not.
And how do you feel now?
Well, fed up with the whole thing.
Mulati was born in the town of Kashgar on the Kazakh border. A former translator, he moved to Urumqi 6 months ago to start a new life as a restaurant owner. However, the riots have forced him to reassess his move and his view of the Chinese authorities.
After the riots on the 5th of July, the government used very inflammatory language on television. And that enraged the Han against us. And then that anger turned into violence.
And since the riots, the government is not the only official body making life tough for the Uyghurs.
On the 19th of July, the police arrested a criminal in the hairdressers opposite my restaurant. There were a dozen policemen, and so all of us went to see what was going on. But when we got closer, a Han policeman pointed his gun at us and shouted, "Back off, you bastards, back off! You can all go to hell!" He just insulted us. And this type of thing makes the Communist Party look bad.
Images of the riots were filmed by onlookers on their mobile phones. Exiled Uyghur organisations say hundreds of their people died at the hands of Chinese police on the night of July 5th, a claim denied by Beijing. The Han Chinese suffered too that night, many beaten by the Uyghur mob. The government has put the death toll at 197, the vast majority, they claim, ethnic Han. 2 days after the initial violence, thousands of Han Chinese took to the streets seeking revenge. At the same time, the police began rounding up suspected Uyghur rioters. Most of the Uyghurs we spoke to in the city centre have had a friend or family member taken away by the police since the riots, but few are willing to speak openly about it. Undercover police are everywhere, and those caught talking to a foreign journalist could find themselves behind bars the same day. The Han are also struggling. Xiaopeng was one of those attacked on July 5th, near the city's main hospital, as he was driving home.
Well, I was in my car driving down this street when I saw some Uyghurs roughing up pedestrians. What happened? Did they force you out of your car? My God, first they stopped me, then they forced my door open and started hitting me in my car. Then they dragged me out onto the pavement and kept beating me.
Liu left hospital at the beginning of August, although he still comes back for a weekly consultation. Beaten all over his body, he is recovering, physically at least.
It's okay now, but I'm still scared. I'm still in shock. But it's normal. My beating was so violent.
Liu is one of the lucky ones. Others are still too ill to leave the hospital, which treated more than 400 victims of the violence. 40 remain under the observation of Professor Young, who heads up the Department of Neurosurgery.
This young man suffered serious head trauma and lost consciousness immediately, and then was thrown into a rubbish bin. One of our ambulances found him in the rubbish bin.
I can leave the hospital in 2 days. I think I have another minor surgery. I'm a bit confused right now.
What are your plans for when you leave?
No plans yet. I will undergo the surgery first, and then I'll see.
But it's not just those inside the hospital who remain traumatized by the riots. A large drop-off in the number of people going to see a doctor here, with many fearful of a repeat of the violence.
This hospital is located right at the center of where the riots were. There are no difficulties coming here now, but people are traumatized. This is the area where people were dying or beaten the most savagely. Nobody wants to come here now.
For the victims of the violence, a return to normal life is anything but simple. Xinjiang is a mechanic at a Han-owned car dealership, where more than 20 vehicles were damaged in the riots. Like many others, Xinjiang is finding it hard to forget his ordeal.
I was in front of the showroom when they began to hit me. I tried to run, but they caught me and continued beating me on one of the cars.
Where did they hit you? Can you show me?
Here, do you see? It was terrifying. I was on the bonnet and they just didn't stop. I shielded my head with my arms, and they kept hitting my elbow and ribs with stones. Now if I walk past one of my Uyghur countrymen, I'm terrified.
And it's not just his physical and mental well-being that are being affected by the riots. Xinjiang has not received his wages for the last 2 months.
I understand that our boss has no money and can't pay our wages, but we have to make a living. I want to work. I've been here some time now and I don't want to quit.
He's not the only one wanting things to return to normal. His boss too would like it to be business as usual, but his hands remain tied.
The authorities have already compensated me to the tune of 20,000 euros, so I could repair my cars. But it's nowhere near enough. I need 3 times as much, and I don't have it. So I'm waiting for the government.
Xinjiang has called Urumqi home for the last 5 years, but if the situation doesn't improve soon, he will be left with no alternative.
What happened has left a deep wound. If it doesn't work out here, I'll leave Urumqi and go back to my own province. I won't stay here.
Officials in Urumqi are also keen to see things return to normal, so the city can regain its image as Xinjiang's tourist centre. A challenge perhaps, the Grand Bazaar, the area's main attraction, finding itself at the heart of the riots.
Xinjiang has always been a multi-ethnic province. Our province is a tourist center with a flamboyant culture, 1,000-year-old landscapes, and 10,000-year-old deserts. Tourists love it here, so we need peace and harmony.
A difficult thing to achieve when the army and police are posted at every mosque and major intersection in the city. Many around the bazaar still feeling nervous about the situation.
I'm still rather scared. Every time I see someone running in the street, my heart races. I look around me to see if anything is happening. It's the same every day since July 5th. I think it's happening again. It's crazy. I'm constantly afraid.
The shop acted as sanctuary for more than 30 people of all ethnicities on the day of the riots, the owner pulling down the shutters when the violence began. And the two employees, one Uighur, the other Han, are testament to the complexity of the problems facing the province of Xinjiang.
I'm not only afraid of the Han, but also the Uyghurs.
But you're a Uyghur.
Yes, but even though I am a Uyghur, I'm still really scared. Because, you know, on July the 5th, some Uyghurs were beating other Uyghurs. It was horrible.
The fear and tension on the streets of Urumqi is still palpable, and the rift caused by the riots will take a long time to mend, especially as the underlying problems of the violence remain unsolved. Many Uyghurs see the Han government's policies in Xinjiang as deeply unfair and repressive, a claim denied by Beijing, which is now looking to punish those responsible for the troubles and bring order back to the streets of the city. However, the situation is likely to remain tense ahead of the 60th anniversary of the foundation of the People's Republic of China on October 1st.
That's it then for this edition of Caring. Until the next time, bye-bye for now.